Hey everyone, so with Luffy more clearly shaping up to be a chosen one figure, although whether or not that is definite is still yet to be determined, with him at least seeming like very possibly a chosen one figure at this moment, it's a good time to do a comprehensive deep dive into the thematic messaging of One Piece so far, and to see how the idea of destiny and a chosen one fits with or contradicts the other themes of the series. Now, let me quickly address a few things before you all start typing your comments. First of all, contrary to what some may believe, no, I am not talking about this topic to criticize One Piece. This isn't a criticism of One Piece. If you follow my channel at all, you know that I put One Piece on such a pedestal because I think that Oda is unparalleled at building layers of coherent thematic messaging over long periods of time. This video is just a discussion of a new potential thematic conflict in the story. I've said at the end of both my videos on reincarnation and my previous video on destiny that I have faith in Oda that he has a plan for all of this. Again, Oda dropped hints as far back as chapter 96 that he is aware of future thematic complications that will come up in Luffy's journey. I just want to talk about what those thematic complications are, because that is important to the story going forward. The reality is that many readers right now are trying to make blanket statements that there are no thematic issues with Luffy being a predestined chosen one. I think this may be coming from a place of fear. The fear that if you acknowledge that Luffy being a chosen one causes thematic complications, then that would be saying that One Piece is ruined or something. But in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with acknowledging thematic complications so long as you trust that Oda is aware of said thematic complications and is planning to address those in the story. If you think that even discussing whether destiny conflicts with other themes in One Piece is a criticism of the series, then you are the ones who don't believe in Oda, not me. Now, the other point you might raise is that we don't yet know if Luffy is the chosen one or not. We have to wait and see. And normally I would think that's fair, let's just wait and see. But just from seeing how aggressive and rampant discussion has already become among readers surrounding the idea of destiny and being a chosen one in One Piece, I mean, it's literally reigniting old wars with the Naruto fanbase, I do think it is definitely worth having that discussion of the potential thematic conflict that would come out of Luffy hypothetically being a chosen one right now. So in this video, I'm going to be discussing three themes that I think are at odds with the idea of destiny: free will, dreams, and willpower. Those discussions are all timestamped below. Before we get into those, I want to address some of the flawed arguments I see people making for why, Luffy is the chosen one and Luffy is a product of destiny is just supposedly what the entire story has been about so far, and therefore there's no point in discussing any thematic contradictions. The first argument I see is that destiny has just always been a theme in the story, therefore there can't possibly be any thematic contradictions. So in response to that, first of all, am I saying destiny was not a theme in the story before? No. Obviously, fate and destiny are ideas that have been referenced many times in One Piece. That is not what the debate is about. Leave that strawman on Twitter. What the actual discussion is about is how well destiny works with the other clearly established themes of One Piece. For example, if I'm looking at themes like freedom, dreams, willpower, and so on, all of those ideas can clearly coexist and work well together to tell a complete, coherent message. But destiny is a bit of an odd man out, and Oda himself referenced how destiny could be at odds with other ideas in the series as early as chapter 96. And yet again, as recently as Whole Cake Island, the idea of a predetermined future was explicitly rejected by the narrative. Basically, even if destiny has always been a theme, that does not mean that it has always fit with the other themes of the story. And now that destiny really is coming into the spotlight, we need to talk about that. So even if you're pointing to this page and saying, look, it has the word destiny in it, first of all, pretty much every other translation of this page says flow of time, not destiny. But more importantly, it doesn't matter how long a theme has been around or referenced. It matters whether all of the themes of the story together are compatible with one another. An author can establish a dozen themes at the start of the story, and then at a certain point down the line, you can be like, okay, not all of this messaging makes sense together. Just saying that destiny has always been a theme is not a good argument to defend Luffy being the chosen one, as the actual argument is about compatibility with other themes. Along those lines, let me also reiterate what I said in my last video, which is that foreshadowing is completely irrelevant to this conversation. It does not matter how many panels you can find of a monkey pointing to some melting orange stuff that has nothing to do with thematic discussion. Foreshadowing just hints that a future plot point will occur. That shows great planning, but it is irrelevant to this discussion. This is a discussion about thematic contradictions, not plot contradictions. Just because a plot event has been foreshadowed does not mean the thematic message that comes out of said plot event is automatically compatible with other long-running themes in the story. So yes, destiny has always been a theme, and yes, Luffy's current awakening was clearly foreshadowed. Does that mean that all the themes in One Piece are automatically compatible with one another? No. Now, the next argument I've been seeing people say a lot is that, look, One Piece has always clearly been a Chosen One story. It was always clearly established that Luffy is a Chosen One because Luffy has always been called special. This is probably the most basic and vague statement I've seen pro-Chosen One people use because it doesn't really mean anything. Yes, throughout One Piece, characters have noted that Luffy is special, but this has always been in reference to Luffy's character traits, such as his willpower, or his dreams, or his kindness, or his ability to bring people together. People have been saying Luffy is special because Luffy does have impressive character traits. That does not mean that everyone has been saying he is some destined chosen one from day one. It has always been entirely due to Luffy, as an individual, simply impressing the people he meets thanks to the type of person that he is. I don't know where people are making this leap that Luffy has always been special means that Luffy has always been framed as the chosen one. The final argument I often see from people who say that One Piece was always a chosen one story is that characters have always talked about how lucky Luffy is and how fate seems to favor him. Now, is Luffy extraordinarily lucky? And is Luffy seemingly protected by fate? Yes, this is definitely 100% true. You can see this as far back as Smoker in Logtown. You can see it pointed out by Doc Q. Luffy regularly catches a lot of lucky breaks, as though fate is on his side. But at the same time, people are being selective and not looking at the full picture. People are forgetting that the story has also clearly established why Luffy seems so prone to all these miracles. People want to spin it as, see, Luffy is lucky because he's always been protected by destiny because he's always been framed as the chosen one. No, the story established that Luffy is prone to miracles because miracles come to those that never give up. Luffy's extraordinary luck has been established as a product of Luffy's own grand will and determination, a drive so powerful to achieve his own goals that fate itself won't let him die. The One Piece world has always shown that those with powerful convictions are favored by fate. The more relatable real-world philosophy that comes out of this idea, the idea that miracles come to those that never give up, is essentially the message that if you never give up, you always have a chance. That is a really powerful message that applies to real life. It's just that in One Piece, a fictional work, this notion is exaggerated and romanticized to the point that your strength of will can literally make fate shine on you. That is, by the way, an infinitely more powerful theme and message than Luffy just being a predestined chosen one living in a bubble of literal plot armor, as so many readers suddenly want to pretend One Piece has been about. But no matter how many panels you want to pull out about luck and fate, the fact is Oda has already made a clear statement on the reason behind why Luffy always gets so lucky. The reason fate is on his side, and that is because he never gives up. That was the reason given before in the manga. The idea that Luffy has always been lucky because he is the chosen one is factually not what the story was saying up till now. So with those arguments out of the way, let me get into the three biggest themes that are seemingly incompatible with destiny. First is a topic I touched on in a previous video, freedom versus destiny. Here, the thematic incompatibility is pretty intuitive. Philosophically, free will versus destiny is a well-documented philosophical debate and has been for a long time, as those two ideas are generally considered opposites. As such, it is pretty reasonable to say that a character who is written to be the embodiment of freedom, who repeatedly is framed as a character who does not follow a set path, who is specifically and repeatedly defined by his tendency to break from any set path and choose his own path instead, who continually reiterates the importance of choice and how he will always be the one to choose his own story, that character rings hollow if this entire time his story was actually predestined, as the idea of being predestined inherently means following a set path. Luffy awakening as Joy Boy to save Wano seems like he is playing out exactly what his predestined path is supposed to be. This may in fact be his narrative that was set in stone from birth. If that is the case, then Luffy would hardly be the embodiment of free will and choice, as his entire story would not in fact be him choosing his own path, but in fact him following a predestined path while simply being under the illusion that this was his choice. Now, I've had many commenters come in referencing philosophical arguments as to how free will and destiny could be compatible, and how there are different views that you can apply to all of this, such as that maybe Luffy was always free to pick his own path, and he just so happened to end up doing exactly what he was destined to do. Or that Luffy was destined to be the Chosen One, but the Chosen One wouldn't necessarily make the choices Luffy made, etc., etc. And that's great. Some of those ideas seem appealing to me, but it's not about if you can bring your own philosophy to the table to justify this. What matters is how the narrative addresses the issue of free will versus destiny. If what it comes down to is Luffy rejecting the Chosen One path, or Luffy not turning out to be the Chosen One, or One Piece offering a philosophy of how free will and destiny are compatible, then great, so long as the narrative itself addresses it. And as I said, I think this is something Oda has always planned on addressing, as we look at the next point of destiny versus the theme of dreams. So we all know One Piece is a series about dreams, chasing grand, seemingly unattainable ambitions. The reason dreams are called dreams is precisely because they're so difficult to achieve that they are practically fantasies. Most people in their lives never achieve their own dreams, which is why One Piece is such a refreshing story. Seeing these characters who start out from nothing, chasing these dreams which should be unattainable. Now, if you're telling a story about chasing dreams, that kind of story only really holds weight when the character isn't predestined to achieve that dream. Literally, the whole point is Luffy is chasing something that should be unattainable, that most believe is impossible. The whole climb to Pirate King is framed as Luffy trying to beat the odds, but it's no longer a story about beating the odds if the outcome was already predetermined that Luffy is the one who will beat the odds, if he really was literally just born to be the king of the seas. Usopp sums up best how Luffy's journey has been framed so far. There are so many things in this world that have seemed impossible, but Luffy has somehow repeatedly been able to find a way and beat the odds each time, to the point that Usopp has gradually really come to believe that Luffy can go the distance and one day become Pirate King. Now imagine if Usopp just knew from day one that Luffy is this special chosen one of prophecy who is literally scripted to save the world. What a fundamentally different lens that puts Luffy's entire narrative under. The simple way to put it is that the word dream inherently means something that seems impossible, whereas the word destiny means something that is supposed to happen. These two themes are fundamentally contradictory. If Luffy really is the chosen one, then the entire romance behind this adventure, the entire romance behind him being just a kid from nowhere chasing an impossible dream, is now completely void. And I know that's going to seem controversial, but don't get mad at me. That conflict has already literally been written into the story itself. Oda already pointed out that issue in the text, plain as can be. Is the story about Luffy's dream, or is it his fate? As it stands, the fact that Oda wrote in this point from the start suggests that Oda knows how he is going to address the possibility that Luffy's entire dream adventure so far has in fact simply been his destiny. So I do have high hopes for that. But at the moment, a story about chasing dreams and a story about a chosen one following his destiny are incompatible. And finally, we have the importance of will and willpower in the story. One Piece is a story that rewards characters for their strength of will. That's why the main method of combat is literally your spirit, your haki. Strength of will to overcome adversity is everything in the One Piece world. That is also why Luffy's entire journey is framed around the idea of a long, arduous climb to the top, a climb that, again, should be impossible for most people. And the journey we are following is that of essentially a small fish in a grand ocean, an insignificant speck characterized even as an ant in a storm, somehow managing to make that impossible climb through sheer strength of will and spirit. That doesn't seem to be compatible with the idea that, oh yeah, actually this kid is just supposed to be at the top of the ladder, he was literally born to be at the top. Essentially, why is Luffy going to become the Pirate King? Because his will is greater than anyone else's, or because he is the magical chosen one? The former idea has thematic meaning, the message that if you have a strong enough will and ambition, then you can do what no one else believes possible. The latter idea is simply that the magical chosen one will do magical chosen one things. Now, you might say, well, Luffy has such a strong will because he is the chosen one, which raises the inherent issue of, okay, so then to have a very strong will, you need to be literally picked out by destiny and basically fuck all these other guys that are just naturally strong-willed individuals? On the other hand, you might argue that it's the other way around, and that Luffy is the chosen one because he has such a strong will. And that is a compelling idea, that Luffy was not necessarily born to be Joy Boy, but over time, his strength of will shaped him into that destined role. Though that, of course, is put in question by the idea that certain sovereigns were predestined to be sovereigns from birth. No matter what, the question of how much of this was Luffy's strength of will versus how much of it was predestined plot armor needs to be addressed. Because here's the really interesting thing, which is that Oda has already been writing into the story the idea that your own will trumps fate. Oda has already been writing in the conflict between individual willpower and destiny. We have explicit quotes saying, "Do you know what it takes to beat fate? An extremely powerful will." We have Capone Beige saying that even if you can see a predetermined future, everyone has the power to change it. It's there in the story, clear as day. Willpower should be more important than fate in this story, because characters with powerful wills are supposedly dictating their own destinies. But in that case, if Luffy's whole journey is now turning out to have actually been a predetermined destiny anyway, then it puts all of that prior messaging into question. All those times that Luffy cheated death, was he actually beating fate through the strength of his will, like the story clearly said? Is Luffy really a man who has been overcoming the odds and changing fate thanks to the strength of his will, like the story clearly said? Or was all of this just his destiny and he was always being carried along by fate? Has Luffy been overcoming fate and bringing about miracles through his strength of will, like we were told? Or has he been following his fate? Because those are very different things. If it turns out that all along Luffy has not been beating fate, but rather everything he's done was his fate, then it does raise a lot of questions for Luffy's journey so far, and it puts in question a lot of the messaging about willpower and agency over destiny that we've been getting in the story. All of that being said, the purpose of this video is just to remind people of a lot of messaging throughout the series that is being actively ignored right now, since people seem hasty to apply revisionist history and claim that One Piece has always been purely about a chosen one following its destiny and nothing else, when there is a ton of messaging that seems to directly contradict that. This is not a video to criticize One Piece. This is a video to remind people of the full scope of what One Piece's messaging has been, so that we can actually have meaningful discussions going forward. I obviously think Oda has a plan for all this. I obviously think Oda is aware that destiny is not compatible with a lot of ideas in the story, as Oda himself is the one who has been writing in a lot of messaging that pits ideas like freedom, dreams, and will against destiny. As it is, Luffy as a predestined chosen one does not fit with the rest of the messaging surrounding his journey so far. But if you have faith in Oda, then we can all look forward to seeing how he approaches this potential new development. Maybe Luffy isn't the chosen one. Maybe Luffy is the chosen one, but Oda doesn't play the trope straight. Maybe it's a rejection of destiny. Or maybe Oda has a message on how destiny can be compatible with free will, dreams, and willpower. I don't know, we'll have to wait and see. And if you enjoyed this video, then definitely like, comment, and subscribe for more videos every week.